In this episode, I sit down with Devon McDonald. Devon was a high performer in every sense of the word. She was a D1 athlete, then spent 17 years climbing the ranks at OpenView to become general partner of the firm, which is the very height of prestige in tech and VC land. And in this conversation, Devon opens up about the moment that her body started telling her that she was on the wrong path, and her finding the courage to actually listen and start to quite literally write her next chapter that was focused on alignment and impact and purpose and passion, and how that's led her to her latest project alongside the love of her life. We talked through identity, divorce, walking away from a role people really spend decades trying to earn, and sitting in the uncomfortable goo of transformation. But before we dive in, this episode is brought to you by Dream Fuel, the leading mental performance coaching platform for tech teams. It's been so cool to see this team absolutely take off. They are now coaching some of the biggest brands across technology. Teams are just finally waking up to the fact that giving your team the tools to regulate their mind, body, and nervous system is not some woo-woo feel-good initiative. It's how you build repeatable, scalable success across your organization. If you run a team, they are still offering a free team coaching session to any listener of Wake Up Call. That is just in Q1. It's normally about $2,500. So I would take them up on it. Go to dreamfuel.com/wakeupcall to book yours now. And a quick shout out to our friends at enfold.org. If you've been a listener to this podcast for a while, you'll know the role that psychedelics have played in my own personal growth journey. You know, these medicines are not to be taken lightly, and you need the right container. And I have quite literally been all over the world, and I don't know of a better container than Enfold. Of course, choosing to go down this path is a very personal decision. I recommend you do all of your own research, consult with people you know and trust. But if you do feel the call, you can apply and book with one of their experts at enfold.org. They do book up quite far in advance, but if you mention Scott Parker or Wake Up Call, the team will prioritize your intake. All right, now on to the episode. Ms. Devon McDonald, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am in Goa, southwest India right now, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And I feel a little guilty because you got 2 feet of snow right now.
We've got a lot of snow outside of Boston. For anyone who's listening who's in New England, we've just been hammered the last few weeks, January. But spring is coming. I remember last night I was with my son. It was 5:10 and it was still light outside. And I'm like, Callan, look around. It's still sunny out. That means that spring is on the way. So just got to power through these next few weeks. The ground apparently told us 6 more weeks of winter. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is that what I didn't know what the groundhog said? Now we know.
That's what, yeah, apparently. Funny tradition.
I love it. So where to start? I just want to say, you know, it's always really cool to do a little bit of research on people, you know, before jumping on and recording these. And, you know, your background is incredible. You know, what you've been able to accomplish over the course of your career, and even before that, like, you know, you are the archetype of the high performer, you know, Div 1 basketball, and then you slowly just, you know, start as sort of what looks like an individual seller. I don't want to put, you know, words in your mouth, but just kind of kept climbing and understanding go to market and marketing and sales more and more. And then you end up, you know, landing at OpenView, and, you know, a 17-year run when general partner, and like,
making me feel old.
Looks,
I hear that.
I mean, from the outside, this is what is so crazy about really diving into stories. Like, from the outside, you would look at your career and be like, that's it. That is what you aspire to. Um, when you hear that, how does that feel? Because I bet a lot of people do think that, if they just look at your LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm blushing. I hear that and I think, well, it makes me, I do feel proud, right? I really do
Hmm.
feel proud of the last 17 years, the last, well, 41 years of my life. I really feel proud of the accomplishments. But I also can, a lot of that sort of success that you see on paper, there's a lot more behind the scenes that's happened and that was going on that doesn't necessarily meet the eye. And so I
Hmm.
think it was really surprising to people when I decided to make the move that I made a few years back now, which was to sort of pull myself out of that general partner role at OpenView, the fund that I was in, at a time
Hmm.
where you would look at what was happening, and we were raising our biggest fund to date, and the team was growing, and we've had all sorts of great investments, like Datadog and Calendly and all these names you'd recognize. But for me, it was time to make the move. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's been really surprising to people. But the more I start sharing my story, I think people can see themselves in it and it resonates.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just really fortunate to be in the position I'm in now. But I also, like I said, I look back on that run, and I have nothing but gratitude for it. Honestly, like the good and the bad. But at this point, I knew it was time to make that move, and kind of gathered up the confidence and sort of bravery to do it, and did it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is an incredibly hard decision to make. And the audience to this podcast, a lot of people in tech, but not everyone. And I just want to hammer home, like, in the world we were in, like in venture capital, like, it is a slog to get to that partner, position.
Yeah.
Particularly at a firm like OpenView. um, and people wait their whole careers. Sometimes many times it doesn't happen. It is like the pinnacle of what you aspire and get to, and
Mhm.
obviously there's rewards that come with that when you get to that level. What Walk me through, like, the, we'll call it, pre wake up call. Like,
Mhm.
what was going on? um how did you sort of identify in your mind, your body, your soul, that the direction you were headed down wasn't the one that you should continue on?
Mhm. Um, I think it was honestly around the time of when the pandemic really hit. Um, 2020 was sort of that big year of reflection year. Not just for me, I know for most people. It really stopped us dead in our tracks and forced us to re-examine our lives and our jobs and our relationships. And so I know I'm not alone in that. Um, it changed so much. It changed so much of our, if you think of obviously personally and with being able to see people, et cetera, but just even work itself changed so much, going completely virtual and hiring people virtually. And so that for me was just a year when I really started to feel something inside that, quite frankly, I was like, I was trying to suppress that because in my mind, I'm like, this is crazy. In the world of venture, there's Carrie, right? And we're raising a new fund and there's a lot of money on the table. And I've just hired all these amazing people and I really love these people. But there was something inside of me that was just like, it's time. It's time. And I'd be like, "Shh, get down there. Like, no, we got to like keep going here." And so it was funny, like earlier in my career, you've heard the term "fake it till you make it," right? Like I felt like that in my early days of OpenView for sure. I was, this 25-year-old coming in and advising OpenView's portfolio heads of sales on sales strategy.
Mhm.
And when I first started doing that, I'm like, oh my God, how are these people listening to me and taking my advice and really just like, soaking it all in? over time, and after I worked with so many more companies, I started to really have more confidence in myself and what I was advising, just because I had seen it. Like, we invested in such a niche stage of companies, expansion stage, B2B, SaaS businesses, that from a go-to-market standpoint, there was so much commonality with each and every company. So over time, I built that confidence. But fake it till you make it was something I was definitely experiencing in the early days, a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And then
Mhm.
fast forward, 13 some odd years later, it's almost like fake it till you make it came back, but it was like fake it till you make it, just like suck it up. And like, even though there's something inside of you saying that this is not right anymore, just numb it down or
Mhm.
put it aside and do what you need to do, grind. And that strategy started to, I would say, stop working when my body started reacting in a way that was showing, that sort of, dysfunction, right? It was my jaw, I woke up one morning and I had complete lockjaw, and this it wouldn't go
Mm.
away for weeks and weeks and weeks. I would have to cut my food into, like, the thin slices and, like, put it in, like, almost like a credit card into my mouth, like,
Wow.
my something I don't know what I was storing a lot of that tension, maybe from not being able to, like, speak my truth. You can look at it from
Mhm.
that perspective. To this day, I still feel like my jaw just cracks because of that intense amount of pressure and stress that I was clearly storing there. Headaches, weight gain. I mean, as you mentioned before, I was a college athlete, so I would always, been in shape and kind of prided myself on being fit, but I just kind of had let myself go. Mom of three, you're in the pandemic, wine culture, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I started to look in the mirror and not recognize myself. I mean, I was, 30 pounds overweight, I would say, from where I was at my sort of like peak physical fitness. So, and, all the things like not sleeping well, my skin was breaking out. So here I was trying to fake it till you make it, but my body was just clearly, it was kind of seeping through the cracks. The fact that this was
Mhm.
not right.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. It can be so hard to just listen to our bodies. Like for me, I was so disconnected from my body. I was so in my head all the time because, we're making a million of these decisions all the time. And you
yeah.
think that your whole self, at least for me, was like in my head. So my body would
Mhm.
would tell me all these signals, but I didn't speak the language that it spoke,
Yeah.
for a long time. Um and we had another guest on, Andy Johns, who's just an incredible human, and he calls it, pushing the beach ball underwater. Like, once you kind of know you're on the wrong path and you just, like, push it down and
Yeah.
it's gonna pop
Yeah,
up,
that's a good
push it
metaphor.
down, it's gonna pop up. And so what was there a moment where you were finally like, "Okay, I'm gonna listen to you, body, and we're gonna make some moves."
Yeah. I think it was I think a lot of my there were so many different transformations that occurred in my life between basically 2020 and, I mean, leading up until now, but I would say the bulk of the big transitions were between 2020 and 2021 to 2024. And it hit every big category of my life, right? It was like relationship, career, and body, were the big ones. And so for me, it started with body. I did start to listen to my body. I was tired of looking in the mirror and not recognizing or not feeling good about what I was seeing. And I'm like, I remember feeling like I can do better than this. This is a waste. Like, this is a waste. Why am I not in better shape? And so, starting with that and finding the right, gym or this place ultimately where I work out called Figuarella, where I knew I would have accountability. I think for me, a big part of getting in shape is I think associate with being on a team and having coaches. So it wasn't going to work for me just to have like an open gym where I go and work out every day. One who was going to be like, "All right, Devin, you're 5 minutes late. Where are you? Like, don't you wanna do this? Don't you have goals here?" And so I found that in this place, called Figuarella, And once I got into it and I started to change my routine and change my routine around how I was, obviously clearly working out. So just even diet was a part of it too, cutting back on sugar and alcohol. Um, then my body started to evolve, and it happened like honestly pretty quickly. Within 6 months, I had lost 30 pounds,
Wow.
and this was like pre the GLP-1 craze. So the
You did the
GLP,
old fashioned way?
yeah, the good old fashioned way, like cutting out the sugar and working out. And it was like focusing on that first and foremost was so good with just helping to like get my energy back, really start feeling good, and then just like ultimately my confidence and forming this like I would say like new identity that I was really proud of. And from that, starting with physically feeling better, I think it allowed me to have more confidence with making some of these other changes that I needed to make in my life.
Hmm. That's just really good advice in general, and one I need to internalize more. I'm pretty good, on this journey, but there's been so many times in my life where if I just move my body consistently for a few months, like a lot of my
Yeah.
problems, they won't necessarily go away, but they won't feel as big. Your whole brain and nervous system is working so much more in sync. I also have
Yeah.
a theory that athletes, like however active we are when we're young, because I was
Yeah.
very active, like played a high level of soccer, rugby, played football, like sometimes like 3-4 hours of sports an evening. And
Mhm.
I think I think we set like our baseline. I don't know the science behind this, but like I think we set our baseline when we're a kid and a teenager. And
Yeah.
then if we go into, becoming an adult and we only have 45 minutes or whatever, but your body's used to so much more. I think that,
Yeah.
athletes just need more movement in our lives. So so you get your body, feeling strong again, feeling, you're feeling powerful, you're feeling confident again.
Mhm.
Um, what does that lead to? I imagine it leads to a clear mind, which brought you to the next step, which is
Yeah. It brought me to the next step, which was, um, I think mustering up the courage to make some changes in the other areas, right? And so it wasn't just physically getting in shape. It also I started working with coaches. One that I would say was more on the, like the spiritual side of things, and one that was more your classically trained, PhD in psychology, so that I had the best of both worlds,
Mhm.
and could sort of like pick and choose how to internalize everything and use it to move forward. And it took really months of those types of conversations because, again, my identity was so wrapped up in this life that I had built for myself that looked so successful on paper, and that was so in so many ways had served me so well. Um, I had the partner role at a venture firm. I feel so good about that. That's my identity. If someone asks me what I do in public, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a partner at OpenView. Oh, and that felt so good. And that was just, and I'm sure you felt that too.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
right?
a powerful
It
feeling
is.
for the old
Yeah.
ego, for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then, it's like I had the marriage, the 3 kids, the big house in Newton, the white picket fence, like I had that, right? So that felt also very, very good. And when I would have those feelings of like, this doesn't feel right, I would almost feel guilty. Like, how could I, this is, what people dream of. How could I possibly be not feeling good about some of these things? And so a lot of conversations and just vocalizing and really, you and I were chatting, before this call about, um, the power of journaling. And I know manifestation is a term that people throw around and gets associated with like woo woo and all that. But for me, this in this particular journal right
Love
here
it.
with a little lock in it that would kept my all my thoughts and inner dialogue safely protected here. Um, but writing about the future state as if it were the present at that point in my life when I felt like I was just sort of my soul was feeling quite low really helped me. I didn't realize you listen to all the books and the podcasts, and they talk about these practices. And now that I have sort of like the evidence of, whoa, the things that I was writing about and the feelings that I wanted to feel at that point in time, um, years later, I can look back and be like, damn, it really happened. This really worked. And this now becomes something that I just is so sacred to me and that I'm trying to use and having conversations with other people who are also in that state of like feeling quite low. Like
Hmm.
you have the power to make some of these big changes. You're going to have to, there's patience involved with it. And there's
Hmm.
going to, it's not like you can just sit there and allow these things to magically happen. You have to take steps forward. There has to be action, but like, absolutely, you can make some big, huge, scary changes in your life and
Hmm.
come out on the other side in a really good place.
Yeah. Yeah. And it won't feel good the whole time. It's not like you just
Ooh,
make that
I feel
decision and then
desirable.
if it,
It's like
yeah.
and the metaphor that I used with one of my coaches was like, you feel like you're, when you're this, maybe a little cheesy, but like when you're that sort of caterpillar is transforming into the butterfly, it turns into that goo before it really kind of starts to develop inside of the cocoon, the wings and that sort of thing. So like, oh, I felt that goo. It was just for months and months and months. Like this feels so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Forming those new
Yeah.
habits and saying those things and like changing that identity in so many ways and forming that new identity. Oof. But
Hmm.
looking back now, like, damn, it was worth it.
Hmm. The goose where all the good
The
stuff is for sure.
exact oh, yeah. Quote of the day, I
Yeah.
like that one.
It is. But yeah, I really want to hammer home the point that it's not a fun process. And I think a lot of people, myself almost included, luckily not, but it it feels so like sort of wrong for a while, like it doesn't feel right quite yet. And so I think that's the point when a lot of people reach backwards to like old
Mhm,
identity structures and go back to like old roles
mhm.
because you're just grasping. But what I think you're not looking for anything. You're not searching. Like you're creating. The goo is like it's malleable. Like you can just build it.
Yep.
Which yeah, it's crazy, but it's so cool that you did that. So could you make that journaling exercise really like real for listeners? Like, do you have a maybe a prompt you could share, or even share something from your journal if you'd be
Yeah,
comfortable with it?
yeah, absolutely. And, yeah, this journal I think a lot of times people, when they're journaling, they get overwhelmed by it because you feel like you have to almost have certain rules and make it neat and the date has to be perfect and you have to fill every page. And for me, part of having this lock on it was just almost freedom to do whatever the hell I wanted in this thing, even if it was drawing a picture or writing a word or doodling or anything. It was still like my energy coming out onto paper. And looking back through these pages, it's like I was doing a lot of writing about the future that I wanted for myself as if it were the present.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
what I think I was doing, and I think what the psychologists or the scientists might say about that was that I was almost telling my brain, I was directing my brain, giving it a north star of what I wanted to navigate myself towards,
Mhm.
and almost telling my subconscious because there are conscious actions that I could take to make that happen, but there's also so many subconscious activities or things, feelings that I'm having over the course of the day, and I feel like this gives it some direction. And
Totally.
so let me just dig in here and find, um, let's see. Okay, let's start with the job. So I wrote this on February 15th. Wow. Okay. So very close to today's date,
Crazy.
2021. And so imagine the scenario of this was almost like the opposite that was happening than what you're seeing here. But as I was writing these entries, I was really trying to um, imagine that this was genuinely happening and trying to think of as many of the senses that I could possibly draw into it. So, like, what does that feel like? What am I hearing? To live in this life or to live in this description that I have on paper, what does it, what do I smell? What do I taste? What do I get? All the senses involved. And so it's like my job is so fulfilling and I have so much freedom to do everything I want. I feel reward from what I do, and I'm helping people grow, develop, and get more connected every day. Everyone recognizes how great I am at what I do, and I make more and more money often. I mean, I'm putting stuff in here that's like a little,
Yeah.
out there, and I feel a little bit vulnerable even saying it. Um, I have, let's see, I am so thankful for everything that I have acquired. I'm able to help my family financially. Um, my fortune allows me to not have monetary stress and to have all the freedom in the world to do things for work that bring me joy and fulfillment. With my partner, we work together doing charitable things that bring us together that much more. We travel together, we are constantly learning and growing, and my partner and I are becoming more spiritual every day. Now, this is like, if you could fast forward to 2021, this was, like I said before, so the opposite of what my day to day was like and how I was feeling. And quite frankly, traveling, it's funny that, like, looking back now that I was anchoring so much on traveling because I had left I had only left the country once or twice, in my life. I'd gone to the Caribbean a couple times on, like,
Mhm.
the spring break getaways, what have you. I think I had
Mhm.
been to Canada a couple times.
Nice,
And,
nice.
I had been to Greece once on my cousin, her Make-A-Wish trip,
Mm.
but that's
Oh.
the extent of it. So now if I look back to my life now, uh, to what I'm living now, it is incredible because travel is something that I'm doing often. And doing it
Mhm.
with my partner, and we're doing things that are bringing people together and that feels so fulfilling to me. And holy crap, no, I'm I'm sort of dumbfounded reading this when I go
Mhm.
back to
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy to to share something that,
it. Yeah,
wasn't meant to be shared, but I think
right.
it was beautiful and cool to witness from my side now knowing, a little bit about your life. And it's like what you described in 2021 is
Yeah.
essentially your life now.
Yep.
And maybe we'll skip forward a little bit and let's talk about what you're up to these days because that came to pass, which is wild.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, actually, before we jump, I wanna do one more, entry and just tell you
Please.
about, my relationship.
Mhm.
So again, February 2021, 5 years ago now. My partner is so loving and supportive, and we are so connected. I love him so much, and I'm so grateful that the universe brought him to me just when I needed him most. He is healthy, strong, happy, and fulfilled. He is so generous and helpful to those in need. We are so in love and attracted to each other. So that was like
Mm.
what I really wanted in my relationship. And so I'm just gonna put that there, and then we can talk a little bit fast forward to, like, what life looks like today, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
It does. It totally does.
Um, so yeah, my life today is a lot different from what it was in 2021. I like I had said before, I left that full-time general partner role at OpenView back in 2023. Not long thereafter, I entered a divorce process, which was really, very, very painful in so many ways. Um, and I, it was, I look back and I'm like, that was such a hard point to sort of. I thought that when I had left the role, with OpenView, that it was like, well, that was the big change that I was going to need to feel better. And then when I had that much more time and I could sort of evaluate life outside of work, I was like, oh crap, there's more to do here. And so began that process and just so many learnings. But still in that time I was staying connected to the so many amazing people that I had met over the time of my days with OpenView. That was
Mhm.
one of the so many gifts from my time with OpenView, but one of the biggest gifts is, just the amazing people that I met along the way. Um, there was one of my core roles for OpenView for over the stretch of many years was to work with a woman named Casey Renner to build out OpenView's executive network, which at the time felt really daunting. But it was now I'm like, oh man, I am so glad because that introduced me to thousands of exceptional people, particularly in the world of like B2B software.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of those relationships that we started and cultivated, years back now, are just people I have in my life that have been so helpful. And now that I'm hearing from so many people who, like me, would look at their careers on paper and you would see like they're perfect. And they've done it all and they're such a high achiever. And then you have conversations and you realize that like everyone's going through something. There's something. And like midlife is full of big transitions. And to
Mm-hmm.
think that, you achieve success and it's just like, okay, you coast until retirement. Like that's just not what's happening. But we try to, in many cases, at least for me for years, like try to just like suppress. But to be able to kind of get out there and talk about it and make changes for yourself and enter that goo period um, with people around you who get it and with some understanding that like it's okay, it's natural to feel uncomfortable at this stage, but this is a part of, being a human being, a part of life. There's change is a constant and you just, embrace that. So what, all these, like reactivating my network and having conversations with great people really reintroduced me to Richard Danfield, who was someone I met at OpenView many years back. But learning about his story and these changes that he had gone through with selling his business, Fresh Tilled Soil, and all of the challenges that came with that. And then ultimately his wife getting cancer and passing away 5 years later. We came together and we were just so helpful to one another during this period of insane change. And we recognized, damn, there's in these conversations we're having with more and more people, like so many people are going through it. So why don't we create a space in which people can come together at midlife and really connect on the fact that you know, change is happening and it's scary, but how can we help each other? And that's where Second Harvest was born.
Mm-hmm. It's so cool. And yeah, it's been just such a pleasure getting to know you and had a great conversation with Richard and the listeners will get to meet Richard. I'm gonna have him on the
Yeah,
pod
he's very excited to chat with
next
you.
week. Super cool guy and yeah. Did you find this? Like I was so appreciative and overwhelmed, happy, grateful to my network who showed up for me when I kind of shared a bit of my story. But then there was
Mhm.
also a bit of part of me. I was like, so you have all been lying to me this whole time? Like it was this funny thing where it was, and that's part of the reason I was called to build Wake Up Call and have
Yeah.
discussions like we're having today is people do get honest with each other and vulnerable. But usually someone has to sort of take that lead because you're at these executive dinners, which I'm sure you've, you know,
Mhm.
thrown hundreds, if not,
Mhm.
close to thousands. I was doing one every week, it felt like. And, you interact and everything's usually pretty good. Everything's up and to the right
Yeah.
and everyone's raising around and um yeah, it's
Well,
interesting.
it's like that's
Did
the
you find
role
that?
that we all play, right? And I don't
Yeah.
think it's like people were necessarily lying to you or lying to me, but people thought they were doing what they needed to do to maintain this identity and to,
Mhm.
there's that saying of like more money, more problems, right? It's
Mhm.
you start, you move up in your career, you start making more money, you start buying more things, you start, you have the bigger mortgage, you have the car payments, the kids are in private school, and just because you're making more money, you're spending more money. And so you actually do still feel a bit like a prisoner to the system,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
crazy, right?
Mhm.
And then in order to keep up with all of that, and now for years you've been in that role, that provider, you've acquired all these things. It's really difficult to pivot because it's like, well, I can't that system would break and I have people who are relying on me. I have my partner, I have my kids, I have my team at work. Like I can't I can't let them down. So you just kind of rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. But I think more people, not everyone, but a lot of people just come to that realization of like there's got to be a better way. And I just seeing your story, and that's ultimately how we initially got
Mhm.
connected. I was reading about some of the big changes you made for yourself on LinkedIn, and I'm like, yeah, you had that wake up call and made some big sacrifices, but decided to make a change for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's worth it. I can say it's worth it now. If you asked me like 3 months ago, I might have still been like, it's been like 10 months now. Even
Yeah,
3 months ago, I might have been like, "Ugh, fuck,
yeah,
I don't know. But it's finally landing in like my body and my nervous system. I really feel like
hmm,
I'm myself again, or I've created the self that I actually want to be, or whatever it is. It's like I've come home, which there's no amount of carry or
no, I know,
fees or anything that can, replace that feeling, which is I feel very blessed.
yeah.
Um,
Same. And it's so funny too. I think that, I talked to so many executives who, and for Second Harvest, I mean, I mentioned midlife, and that's the individual we're talking to, which you think midlife, when you think midlife, what age comes to mind?
I think it's getting pulled forward. Like I think
Yeah.
we almost need a new term for
Yeah.
like the midlife crisis. I think it's more about the evolution you've gone through as a human being. But
Yeah.
midlife, when I think 45, 50 is what I
Mhm.
think now.
Yeah.
Um, but I would open that up. I mean, I'm 33 and I kind of call what I'm going through a midlife crisis, even though,
Yeah.
jury's
Yeah.
out where I'm at. And I have some thoughts on why it's happening earlier. But yeah,
Well, it feels
what do
like
you
you've
think?
unpacked a lot of years in a couple of years, so you kinda hit that midlife point
Totally.
maybe a little earlier than others.
Totally.
And
I think
perhaps
like speed,
if you
speed
kept
comes into it, right? If
yeah,
there's a
if you
if
kept
there's a
going
point,
down
yeah.
go oh, sorry to interrupt you.
No, just say like let's say if everyone goes to the same middle point, but like one person's just going 100 miles an hour and one person going 10, like the
Yeah,
100 is going to get
concrete.
there so much faster. And it was like, it felt like, because I had a whole weird career. Like I was a college dropout. I immediately like went into like building businesses and things like right away. So I feel like
Mhm,
from basically 18 till 33, it was like 100 miles an hour, like pedal to the metal.
mhm.
And I think that's why it just happened a little bit
Yeah,
earlier, and I'm weirdly grateful for that. But
yeah. Yeah, it's almost like if you had kept on, because we've had conversations before, and I've seen your posts about kind of where you were at when you wanted to make that change, but it's almost like if you had kept going down that path, perhaps that would have been your midlife, truly, or your later life, because
yeah,
that pace at which you were going and the way you were feeling just, like, didn't seem sustainable.
I would have exploded if I
Yeah.
if I had kept it up for another decade or 5 years.
Mhm.
Something not very good, I think, would have happened. But um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's it's so cool. So maybe talk a little bit about Second Harvest, because I think
Yeah.
it's so important. And yeah, how do you define midlife? Like, what is it in your thinking typically?
So midlife for me is, well, I guess I've seen, articles recently or even just some like memes online, people kind of joking about it when it's like, you think midlife is when you're 50 but it's actually more like 37, 38. And so I think that can be surprising for people, but the people who have really latched on, and we've had some folks that are younger, and have gone through this sort of like midlife crisis a bit earlier, maybe in their 30s,
Mhm,
but I would say the more common age group that is, coming into Second Harvest is like the orbit is
mhm.
like mid 40s to mid to late 50s. And it's the people who have they're the high achievers. They've had a lot of success. They've been going down this path, and they're starting to, much like what you and I have described for ourselves, feel like, do I really want to, like, I'm so great, like, 'cause I don't want this to come across like I don't have so much gratitude and I don't realize how fortunate I've been. But it's like, and I see that in the people I'm talking to, they have no regrets, but they're like, but there's some, I've got so much life left in me. I've got the resources now. I've got the network. I've got the know-it-all. Like, I want to do something a little different, but how the hell do I do that when I've built all of these structures and I've built this identity that's like down this lane, and that's what I'm known for, and that's what it's expected of me. And so it's like, it's that persona who's in the midst of that, and that can coming to that realization. What we're seeing, it's sometimes it's like a big event in life that maybe just causes you to, whew, what's happening? Look around and say, is this really what I want? And um, that could be a job change, which the job change could come from a successful exit. So it's not all bad stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I've been a CEO, or a head of X, you name it, and we've had a great run. We've had an exit. I've come into some money. I've got the freedom. I'm going to give myself some time to think about what I want to do next. And it's that person who's like, whoa, what do I want to do from here? I've got all these options.
Mhm.
They've probably been running at 100 miles per hour for how many years, and they really need time to also kind of decompress, right? Could be someone who
Mhm.
lost a job. Obviously, it's a weird market right now. And so it could be someone who maybe has is not in a job, not through their own choice. And that's
Mhm.
causing them to reassess. Okay, I've been a head of marketing now this is my fourth go at it. Do I really wanna be the head of marketing again at another startup and, like, give another 7 years of my life grinding, going into the office? I'm 50 years old, like, I'm not quite ready to retire. I suppose I could retire, but I don't wanna retire. Like, all these thoughts are going through their head, right?
Mhm.
We've had other people who come into the second harvest, um, I would say community, but it feels more like an alliance, to be honest. I feel like the word community is sort of overused. And it's maybe the loss of a spouse.
Mhm.
Richard, I think, we talked to like a handful of people because that's part of Richard's story. And
Mhm.
people find that and find comfort in that because that obviously is something that in many cases happens and it's unexpected. My life's going to look like this. I'm going to grow old with this person. And then there's snap, you find yourself in this completely different world that's so foreign. Another one that's been coming up quite a bit with people I'm talking to, it's like empty nesters. It's
Mhm.
people who have their identity has been, they're a parent and taking care of their kids and taking their kids to sports and doing all the things for their kids. We've had, people who have come to some of our events or retreats who have been, maybe had a career earlier, but they decided to become a stay-at-home mom. And now all of a sudden their kids are 19, 20, 21. They move out of the house and they're like, I need something. I want something. I want to build something. I want to do something. But how do I do that? Like my identity is my kid. My kids don't need me anymore. Used to, at least.
Mhm.
And so these are the types of conversations. And like while I just laid out three different sort of life altering events in some ways, the feelings around that there is commonality because
Absolutely.
with each and every one of those transitions I described, there is some element of reforming an identity and also grief of the life that existed beforehand.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so with back to second harvest, getting back to this because I know we've thrown around that term or the name quite a bit, but
Mhm.
it's really for Richard and I, we're not therapists, right? We come out flat out like say that right from the beginning. We're not therapists. We're not. What we are really good at is um, pulling people together to have really great conversations and creating a space or a container by which they can feel safe and comfortable and want to form those connections. And we're not there's not some playbook on how we can help you navigate exactly how you're going to get on the other side of whatever this transition is you're going through. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you the space and the people, um, but really to allow yourself to go within. So often we neglect to listen to inner wisdom. It's all in there, but we're so distracted and we are so often thinking that the answers are outside of ourselves. Oh, like if I read that book or listen to that podcast, I'm gonna get the answers. It's like, yeah, like there's a lot you can learn from the outside, but at a certain point, all that external information becomes a distraction and maybe even a little bit of a delay tactic. Like you
Hmm.
gotta just take yourself out of it, give yourself the space, and really go within. And I know you talked quite a bit about meditation, and I 100% believe that getting to that place of tapping into your inner wisdom and I mean, it's so important. And so that's what we try to
Hmm.
do. We do that through experiences. We posted retreats in Austria, in Spain, this year. Those retreats from last year were so successful that we're doubling down with more. We're going to Spain in April, in Girona. So we'll be there from April 20th to the 24th, 5 days, 4 nights. The group size is about 20 people. They come in as strangers, and they leave. We've seen it now happen multiple times. They leave as friends, as sort of allies in this on this journey together. They have different stories, but they've it's pretty incredible to see the magic that happens thereafter with these connections that are formed. I mean,
Hmm.
people writing books together, people starting
Wow.
businesses together, just general support through these big life changes has been incredible.
So
So
cool.
we're just stumbling down, and like I look back to that journal and like that this is the kind of stuff I was writing about. Did I Second Harvest wasn't even a blip on the radar at this point. Me thinking that that was a possibility or how I could be living my life was not. Nope, I wouldn't have believed you if you had told me.
So cool. So cool. And I hope to go to one of your events. Hopefully this year would be
Love
so
that.
cool.
Would love that.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to creating the spaces that you're facilitating for so many reasons. But like one of them is, and I've talked about this before, but I think we go about our lives and we have all these, different friends and family. And I think friends and family can be like a mirror to us. And when we've worked so hard to create an identity and basically convince everyone, like, I am
Yeah.
this, you spend 30, 40, 50 years of your life being like, this is my identity. And you're screaming it to everyone. And so when you're just around your friends and family, they oftentimes will mirror that identity that maybe you're trying to shift away from back to you. And
Mhm.
so when
Yeah.
you can get in a room and spend some time with new people where, you know, you don't have to be Devon GP, you don't have to be,
Yep.
Devon high performer, you don't have to be Div 1 athlete, you're just Devon,
Yeah.
and if you don't want to talk about your background, you don't have to.
Exactly.
And you get a completely new mirror kind of shone back at you, and it can be such a cool thing for yourself to feel,
Yeah.
that like you're, it sounds corny, but like you're enough just being you, and that's
Exactly.
very powerful.
Yeah. You nailed it. I mean, it's we don't do, and at first people were asking for it because everyone craves that, you're putting yourself in a situation where you have to be quite vulnerable, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, to sign up for something where you're going to go basically across the world to spend 5 days with people you don't know requires a lot of, I would say, vulnerability and bravery. And you're craving, even though they put the cells out there, they are craving a little bit of the like, all right, they want to know like what's the agenda, what's who's going to be there, and you want to be able
Hmm.
to it's I feel like your mind trying to get some sense of control. But we're pretty intentional with not sort of setting up these like, oh, we're going to all jump on a call beforehand to get to know one another, or I'm going to send you your LinkedIn profiles beforehand, and so you can do your like Google stalking on who you're going to be spending time with. It's like,
Hmm.
know us and trust us enough that we're going to get the right people in the room. Like everyone that's going there, it's not like people blindly signed up and they're just like the stranger showing up. Like Richard and I have spent time getting to know them, making sure that they are the right fit for this environment. doesn't mean they have to have been like the CEO of a company that's blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you're there for the right reasons. You're in a period of transition. You can bring something positive to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you can show up and you look around and you just see these people, like you said, for who they are in that very moment. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know sort of the good, the bad, the ugly of their past.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
allows people, I think, to also, because people don't know their history coming in, people can fixate it on it a bit less and focus more about how they're feeling in the present, and then also get really intentional with what they want in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a great practice of not over sort of giving people information, because these are all many of them are high performers. So performers are going to perform. They're going to be doing the Google
Yeah.
stalking, and
Oh
they'll be
yeah.
like, doing the thing. So anytime you could cut that out is good. Well,
And then back to the
yeah.
like the agenda part of it too is when Richard, for me, I'd run OpenView CEO retreats for years.
Hmm.
And when I was setting those things up, it was down to like the minute things were planned. And there were like metrics and like, for every session and what are we gonna, it was very uh planned out and intentional, which, there's a lot of great that comes from that too. We could, as the hosts, like try to control as much as we possibly could and get the right people saying the right things at the right time. But with this, and Richard was very keen on this, and it was making me nervous, especially as we were leading up, with like intentionally leaving space during the day where there isn't there's nothing planned. And I was like,
Mm,
oh God, like as we were getting really close to the event itself, I'm like, this is scary. What if? No, even like
mhm,
the ride in Austria, it was people were flying into Vienna, and it
mhm.
was a 3-hour ride from Vienna to this beautiful compound where we ultimately hosted the event in the Austrian Alps.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh God, 3 hours. And they don't know each other, but they're going to be riding together for the first time. And like, what are they going to talk about? And what if something goes wrong? Or what if blah, blah, blah? And it's like, no, like, that's actually, that's the space where the magic happens. Those are the times where things kind of happen that we can't script.
Mhm,
And so there was
mhm.
like this real, that first retreat. I was nervous the days leading up to it. You can ask Richard. I
I
was
bet.
starting to be like, "All right, Richard, let's sit down. I want to get really like I want to talk about this agenda because I really do think." And he's like, "Relax, it's gonna be fine." And now that I've seen it play out, I have so much more. I'm much more at ease with it, and it's true. It's those are the times when people go on that walk together and start talking about some idea that blossoms and that turns into a business. You know?
Totally.
Or
Yeah.
a deep friendship that I never would have suspected.
Mhm.
No,
Totally.
a
And
lot like life.
sometimes it's just being uncomfortable when it's not scripted, and that is a good
Exactly.
thing too. Like, a lot of these people, can live lives of positions of leadership and power, and every room kind of knows who they are, and then it can be a really healthy thing to, like, kind of feel like that high school kid a little bit and be like, "Oh my god, why do I feel a little uncomfortable right now?"
Yes,
And, like, I think there's a lot of juice in that.
totally. Yeah, what feelings come up when you're sitting in that period of awkwardness or silence
Mhm.
and
Totally.
really kind of sitting with that and seeing where that comes from and, that yeah, that's certainly has played out, and, it's been so fun participating in it, like, I get to obviously, we're hosting it, but we're not hosting in the sense of Um, we're just, you know, serving the meals and making sure that, everything we're really in it. And each and every time ends up being this like really a new and beautiful experience for
Mhm.
I can speak for myself for, learning about myself. So selfishly I love helping other people, but I'm really getting so much out of it for myself with this.
Yeah. That's the best. When you can accomplish both those things, like, this is one of the most selfish podcasts in the world because it's really just sort of therapy for me, but it helps some other people
But it helps
as
some other
well.
people. Exactly.
Yeah.
And just by
Yeah.
like being yourself and speaking your truth,
Hmm.
um, it's great for you, but people are looking at you and watching you and it's helping them. And
Hmm.
there's so much, I would say, like less friction in that because you're doing something that's so natural to you versus having to like try to force.
Totally. Spent too long trying to force everything, as I'm sure you,
Yeah.
you did as a competitive. It was just like, no, it's gonna go this way, and you just use sheer force,
Yeah.
and now like more flow, just like it's all gonna happen the way it's supposed to. Um, all right, I have two final questions for
Mhm.
you. Um, and I know, post kind of wake up call life for you, and you've built just such a beautiful life, and it's given you time and space to go, inward and understand yourself and the world around you a little bit better. Um, let's say that, you know, tomorrow you forgot everything, everything that makes Devon Devon, everything you've learned, every experience is gone, but you now get to give that Devon just three pieces of advice, three learnings that they can hold on to. What would those be?
Mm, that's a good one. Um, let's see. I would say one big one that comes to mind is just that your thoughts really do create your reality.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
where you focus yourself and what you pay attention to becomes your reality. And that to me has been a big learning over these last few years. And I've seen that really sort of like transpire. And I have some like real proof around it now that that is definitely the case.
mhm,
Um, I would say that just and these sort of all maybe go hand in hand or linked to one another, but having more just I think trust and confidence in myself. I feel like I I come across I'm a tall person, right? I'm 6 feet tall, and I kind of come into a room, and I have like a big presence, and part of it is like I'm very tall, right? But I think, just being more at ease with who I am, um, is something that I would sort of recommend to myself coming back into this world. Just being comfortable with who you are and not trying to
mhm,
be someone else, because people can pick up on that, and the more authentic you are, the more the people, you attract the people that are right for you into your universe, and it's just, so much healthier. And, what else would I say? Just have, a bit more this is back to our point about brute force, right? Like, I was very good at trying to control things before, at least I thought I was. Um, but that control, I think, created a lot of unnecessary tension.
mhm.
There's a theme, right? Your thoughts create your reality, trust the universe more.
That's kind of the advice. If you, that's kind of if you're starting out as a human and you get dropped those tidbits and you take them like really to heart,
Yeah.
you're gonna do just fine.
Yeah.
So I love that. It got me thinking of yeah, how hard we push, and if there's a listener who's listening to this right now who's really going through it, they're pushing that boulder up the hill and it feels wrong, and maybe
Mhm.
it's career, maybe it's their relationship, um, and they're just really in it right now.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
Mhm. I mean, everyone's gonna have their own path to figure, there's not some playbook that I can
There's no
hand.
course you can buy for
Of course, unfortunately.
199. Oh,
$9.99,
bummer.
come to secondhand.com and we'll no. It requires, maybe going back to the goo, right? Like, I guess it's like you're feeling it. It feels really shitty right now. And if it's feeling that way, and you can sit with that, just know that you're in the midst of some transformation, right? And have confidence that if you were just walking blindly and you were feeling numb and you weren't feeling frustrated, that would actually be more concerning. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that frustration is evidence of some movement. And know that you're not alone. And that was like, and I'm sure like you've experienced this. I've experienced it. It was in those moments where you learn the most about yourself, and where when you were what's happened. And I don't know if you've felt this when you've done when you've done your meditations. A lot of times when I'm feeling the most frustrated and where my mind starts racing the most, and I'm almost like pushing back on giving myself the space to meditation, is when I'm right on the cusp of having a big breakthrough. And so if you're and I kind of, you look back and you can look at your life, if like you're having that moment of like real frustration, well, you could sit there and be like, everything's over, this sucks. Or you could look at it like, this is actually the moment right before the breakthrough. And I guess that's what I would tell someone, like, just don't give up and know you're actually maybe closer than you think you are. It's just a matter of like, get get clear with the feelings that you want to have. I think a lot of times when we talk about manifestation, and it gets a bad rap because people think about like possessions or the cars, the money, the Range Rover, the whatever, versus the feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
earlier in this journal, I talk a lot about, in my like early days of like 2020, I'm talking more about things. Like if you look back, I'm like drawing pictures of the house, the landscape, the car, the this, the that. It was about a lot about things. And the evolution is, by the end, I'm talking more about feelings that I want to have. And so to
Mm-hmm.
someone who's feeling so frustrated, it's like, what feelings do you want to manifest for yourself? How do you want to feel? And then I think it's getting clear with that, and start taking steps forward. I know so many people who just don't take that. And it doesn't need to be a big leap. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to get a divorce. You don't need to do these big friggin' scary things, but you can take small steps forward and learn each and every time. Gather the data, and then a month later, a year later, you look back and you're like, shit, wow, I just made a big leap, and it happened in incremental steps forward. The feelings first of like, what does the future look like? How do I want to feel in the future? And try to bring that as
Mm-hmm.
much as you can into the present tense. Mood follows action. So it's like, you can't just like, rest in your laurels waiting for this stuff to happen in your life. It does require you taking action, but baby steps.
Baby steps. Incredibly wise advice. I love that positioning, and it feels really true to me that if you're feeling something's wrong and that feeling of discomfort, like
Yeah.
you're closer, you're in the goo. Like
You're in the
me,
goo.
when I was like the worst, I was numb to everything. I was compartmentalizing and not feeling a thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a really wise call out. It's like, I think that's kind of the theme of the episode is like, look for the goo, stay in the goo.
em-
The goo is good.
Embrace the goo. Yep.
Embrace the goo.
It's part of that process. It
Yeah.
means that change is imminent. It's happening.
Mhm. I love it. Well, Devin, I really appreciate the presence and the openness and just this conversation and getting to know you in general, and really proud of what you're doing at Second Harvest, and love to support any way I can, and I hope our listeners go check them out. It's just secondharvest.com, correct?
Secondharvest.co. No M.
.co.
But yeah,
Perfect. Cool.
we've got these upcoming events listed. We're bringing a bit more variety to it this year. So some things that are a bit more local in the States, even some things that are virtual. Because again,
Cool.
people are asking for it, and we're like, all right, let's bring it. We still have those retreats; those are sort of our bread and butter.
Mm.
But yeah, come on, check it out, and would love to. There's a seat at the table.
Perfect. Awesome. Go check it out. To all our listeners, thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you all next week.